I'm Dr. Francisco Roma. I'm going to discuss the concept of business and share my personal knowledge and experience on this subject and draw some insights based on the materials that I've gathered, with the hope that the knowledge that you will get from this presentation, of this lecture, may serve as a guide, your guide, in your search for whatever endeavors you may pursue in the future, especially those graduating students that are here or that are present this afternoon. They will be facing totally a problem after their graduation. Alternatives whether to go on business or employment. All right, let us discuss concept of business. What is concept of business? You know, the concept of business existed as early as mankind. It has a biblical reference and a biblical foundation. You will recall one story in the Bible. The finding of Jesus in the temple when his mother Mary asked him, "Son, why have you done this to us?" And Jesus answered, "Don't you know that I am about my Father's business?" This story alone indicates that the concept of business is pervasive. And you might fall into the trapping of confusion if you will not fully understand business in its basic concept. Especially when you make the statement, mind your own business, without knowing what business you are in. Alright, how do we define business? There are hundreds of definitions of business, ranging from simple to complex, using different point of view, different framework, different discipline, different opinion. But even if there are hundreds of these definitions, in substance they mean the same thing. The technique is of this definition using economic framework. Business is defined as any activity, whether directed for the production of goods and services, legal, and then for profit. But you will note that this definition itself contains a lot of elements. The first element is this, an activity. But please take note that one single activity or transaction may not be considered as a business. It will not fall under the definition because the definition refers to series of activities. Meaning, there must be a degree of permanency, degree of regularity of the transactions or activities. Another element is this element of legality. In other words, you have to comply documentary requirements and procedural requirements from the very inception of the business up to winding up or dissolution, from cradle to grave. Now, the last element is profit. Profit is a built-in element. There is no debate. We cannot debate on this because whether you like it or not, you have to really earn profit while doing business. No one is forced to do business at a loss. Remember this. Now, let us try to compare this definition from the definitions of another author. I'm referring to Monico Ignacio in his book, Introduction to Business, wherein the concept of business is defined as an effort primarily geared to meet public legitimate needs at the required time, place, and at equitable price to compensate a reasonable return for the businessman's effort and risk taken. Take note again that this definition contains a lot of elements. What are those elements? All right. The first element is public legitimate needs, but again, the element of effort is still included. Comparing it with this economic framework, the definition from the economic framework, it is an activity. Effort is similarly also similar to an activity. But the second requirement is, the first requirement is publicly legitimate means the legality again of the business operations or business that you have to put up. And then the second element, required time, place, and equitable price. The most important there in the second element is, what is this equitable price? This refers to trade-off between cost and revenue, similarly to this cost and revenue. In other words, if you produce an item, your production cost is 10,000 or $10 per unit, then you will sell it at $1,000 per unit, then it is not equitable price. It is an exorbitant price, and you may open yourself to the penal sanction of what we call profiteering. Now, the third element is compensation returns on businessman's efforts and risk taken. This refers to profit. There is no need for us to discuss this third element because we have discussed this when I discussed this definition using the economic framework. Now, fourth element, this is the recent element. Requirements of business to comply corporate social responsibility. What is the very essence of corporate social responsibility? Now, I don't want to give you the definition of corporate social responsibility, but I would like to present this pyramid of social responsibility, wherein it has four important aspects to comply. The first one is economic responsibility. Economic responsibility is a requirement that the business itself must earn profit because it has to pay the corresponding salaries and wages of the employees, as well as the dividend, as well as the return of the investment of the stockholders or shareholders. So the second element, the second aspect is legal responsibilities. As I have said before, that business must comply legal requirements from the very inception up to winding up, from cradle to grave, or from womb to tomb. Under the third aspect, we have this ethical responsibility. This is the most serious issue or requirement. Corruption, bribery, involving also conflict of interest. But the last aspect is philanthropic responsibility. Now, is this philanthropic responsibility voluntary or not? Now, so far as I am concerned, and then the materials that I have gathered, philanthropic responsibility is a voluntary requirement. In other words, it is contingent upon whether the business is earning profit or not, because you cannot actually share part of your profit if you don't have profit itself. The saying says nobody can give what he does not have. So in other words, if you will take the holistic concept of corporate social responsibility, partly it is voluntary and partly it is compulsory. All right, given now this concept of business, let's move on to another important aspects of business. I'm referring to the forms of business ownership. This is otherwise known as an alternative forms of business. There are only four types or forms of business ownership: sole proprietorship or single proprietorship. Then we have the partnership, and then we have this corporation. How do we define these forms of business ownership? The first, the sole proprietorship, is defined as it is being owned by a single owner. Of course, if we were to describe or give a description, some or more description of this first type of business ownership, sole proprietorship is an oldest type of ownership. It is easy to organize, and at the same time, it is also very easy to dissolve. Now, partnership. Well, we have this definition. It is an association of two or more partners contributing money, property, and services with the intention of course, dividing the profit from among themselves. So that is the contextual definition of partnership. Now, corporation, in some other countries we call this company or limited companies. But the definition is only one. The generally accepted definition of a corporation based upon the corporation law or company law, it says that corporation is an artificial being, all right, having the right of succession with the attributes, duties, and properties expressly authorized by law or incidental to its existence. So these are the basic forms of business organization. But how do we distinguish one from the other? All right. Comparing these two forms of business, the common, meaning the point of comparison is in this column. And we have this sole proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. Sole proprietorship, single owner. What about partnership? We have the owner partner. And then the corporation, we have stockholders or shareholders. Now, as to liability, insofar as sole proprietorship, the principle of unlimited liability applies. Similarly, also with partnership, the principles of unlimited liability applies, whereas in corporation, it is limited liability. What is the distinctions of this, limited or unlimited liability? In cases the company or the corporation or the business itself runs bankrupt, then the creditor can go after the investment when it comes to sole proprietorship or partnership, and even though we have personal properties of the owners. Whereas in a limited, meaning corporation, limited liability, it is only up to the extent of the capital contribution, shares of stocks of the shareholders or stockholders. It cannot go beyond and go after, meaning the creditors cannot go after the personal liability, personal properties of the stockholders or the shareholders. Now, easy access to capital, of course. There is no such thing as sole proprietorship and partnership. But in corporation, yes, it has an easy access to capital market. Now, when it comes to management and corporate and ownership, separate. Is the management and ownership separate? Of course, no, insofar as sole proprietorship is concerned, it is not separate. And then partnership, same also. But in corporation, there is a separate control and management. Because who controls, who owns the corporation? The shareholders and the stockholders own the corporation, but the one that controls the corporations is the board of directors. Please take note that in corporation, the management of the business is always vested upon the board of directors. And the last basis of comparison is, are the business ownership exposed to double taxation? Insofar as sole proprietorship and partnership is concerned, there is no such double taxation. But in corporation, there is an apparent double taxation because the government will tax the dividends of the stockholders and at the same time the income of the corporation. Hence, there is this double taxation. All right. So, given all this comparison, before I end this lecture, I would like to point out and present this quotation intended to the graduating students who are present here. According to Jim Roma, employment gives you a living, but business gives you a profit. Graduating students,
Good afternoon.